Okay, this is Joe Bullis. This is MELS 603 on July the 18th of 2019. Basically, it's just a question and answer session. Really didn't have anything prepared tonight. I've got some things pulled up on my computer depending on what kind of questions I get. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the mic, or feel free to enter in your questions in the chat box. But does anybody have anything that I need to help them with?
Not for this semester, but is there any way that you can go ahead and start talking about the skip, since we're going to be working on that pretty soon?
Yeah, and I do remember that, Nick, and I was prepared. I am prepared to do that. I just wasn't sure if that was what everybody needed at this point in time. Before we get into that, and I can go over the SIP and the CAP briefly, just to kind of get you prepared for upcoming semester. But before we do that, are there any questions relating to 603? Your competency folios, your internship log, is that looking good? I see the people are on here. A lot of you have already done all your DRF stuff and your other task stream, your folio stuff, competency stuff. So I just wanted to open up and see if anybody's got any questions in regards to 603.
Yeah, the only question, I just wanted to double check, because with the OMA, I did all the stuff in the folio. Now, once we request comments, do we have to wait to get that back before we submit? Because there was no submit button there, or at least I couldn't find it.
Yeah, are you talking about the final evidence narrative of the OMA?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. There's been some changes this semester. Actually, I was informed that it was changed last semester, but for some reason it didn't get changed in my internship shell, where when you submit the final evidence narrative, it's not going to go from my end. It's not going to go to Turnitin. It's supposed to be going through the core shell. Now, you guys got caught up in that, and I'm telling you something that you don't have any clue about. Don't worry about it. You're just grandfathered in at this point in time in regards to that. But when you submit the OMA final evidence narrative in the comment section, it'll put ready for task stream. At that point in time, you can go into task stream and submit your DRF OMA from there. Does that answer your question, James?
Well, yeah, and then that once I have it in task stream, because that's what I'm looking at now. I went through and I clicked through the School of Ed dispositions, and that's locked, but I requested comments for the OMA with the artifacts, and there was no submit.
Yeah, there should be a submit button there, and task stream, when you get into the DRF, it may be before you, is it before you request comments?
I don't remember.
Can anybody help me? Because I don't see that part of it other than what I've got here. Is anybody online that can help James out with that part of the process? Let me get this other screen I've got coming up.
I'm just joining, so sorry. If you can fill me in really quick, I might be able to help. I'm a few minutes late.
Hey, that's no problem, Brittany. Thanks for joining. James is not finding, and did anybody else have this problem? Because James is not finding the submit button when he goes into the DRF to submit on his OMA. So it should be.
When I worked on mine and submitted it, it actually reminded me and popped up a little window when I tried to log out of task stream, because I was going to come back and finish it later to submit it that way.
Okay. And, I'm not sure if an upgrade or an update. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate that. I'm not sure if an upgrade or an update. And see, this is just a sample platform that I work out under, so it doesn't have everything hot like it does for you guys. I tell you what, James, if you're not getting that or you're not able to see that.
Yeah, and I got that far. I requested the comments, and I clicked you on there, and that's where I'm getting lost. But
and you don't necessarily when you go to the DRF and you submit for TaskStream, you do not have to request comments from me. I mean, some people do, and it happens. I usually just say thank you because that's not part of the evaluation process. And I've already gave all my comments when we ran it through the internship shell. So, and that doesn't happen every time. So I was under the impression that that you had, you could do two things. Like there was a request comment radio button, but then there was a submit radio button. And I know you've already gone through this twice. So I'm not sure what the issue is. And it may be something that's been caused from a recent upgrade. I don't know if I'm not aware of there being any upgrade, but I tell you what, James, why don't you send me an email with that, and I'll forward it on to Seth Opria and tell him that we're having some hard problems with that, and see if we can find out what's going on.
All right, I'll keep as you're talking about the skip and the cap there. I'll probably listen and mess with this a little bit more. Maybe I'll shoot and find.
Do that, and when you find the answer, because I feel like you probably will, come back on and let me know what the issue was in case it comes up with someone else.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
I had a problem one time with my school computer that was blocking something, like one of the firewalls was not allowing it to go through. So maybe that could also be an issue.
That's a good point, Blair. Thank you. And that could be, James. But now you submitted from. I'm anticipating that you submitted from this computer before, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll keep working on it. And thanks again, everybody, for your help and your suggestions.
Thanks.
Working on it. All right. Any other questions with 603 stuff? If not, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about next semester.
I've got a quick question.
Sure.
So I'm a little bit confused on the whole turn it in check thing. Because originally we only do it to you, but I guess now she wanted it in her shell. So I've turned it into hers, but I don't know. Do you want me to just go ahead and turn it into you as well? I haven't got any feedback from her. And so I would like to go ahead and get it in TaskStream and get that done.
Yeah, you can, Brittany. You can go ahead and send it to me. It doesn't come in. I don't do turn it in anymore, and
okay.
And so when you just submit your final evidence narrative, it's just like a regular assignment now. So you can go ahead and submit that to me. I'll give it a final check and look for anything that might be affected by an evaluation. If it looks good in the comment box, I'll just put ready for TaskStream.
Okay, so now, because I came in late, so now our turn in always goes to our class shell then.
Yeah, from at this point forward, with my understanding from Dr. Lamb, that turn it in will always be done in your core shell from now on, and the fidelity check on that will be done by the course instructor, not the clinical coach.
Okay.
And he told me that came out of some type of accreditation. I know they had a big accreditation visit, but it was even before that. There was some kind of accreditation issue in another department with the university, because our department's not the only one that uses the turn it in process. It came out of another department, and because of what happened in another department, they're making us all do that. And like I said earlier in the class, I think I just got late notice on that, and with between me and Dr. Todd both asking for turn it in, it was creating a confusion. So I just requested that turn it in be taken out of my internship shell. And he had actually meant to do that anyway, but for some reason got skipped. So yeah, that's the process from now on, based on my understanding of the conversation I had with Dr. Lamb.
Okay, so if I've already turned it in to you in the OMA Dropbox, my final narrative, and you gave me like 100, it's good to go.
Yeah. Once I've done that, if there was any issues with the turning it process from Dr. Todd, give her 24 hours to look over that. If there was any issue, I feel like she would have already gotten in touch with you. We're getting down to the end of the semester. Go ahead and turn it in. Go ahead. Bad choice of words. Go ahead and upload it into TaskStream for evaluation.
Okay.
Yeah, great question. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Any other 603 questions? Okay, I'm gonna check the chat box just to make sure. I don't see any there either. Okay. All right. So if everybody's in good shape at this point for now, with anything going on with 603, I will talk a little bit about next semester, 604. 604, as you probably already know, you do two evidences, the stakeholder community involvement plan and the cultural advocacy and action plan. Now, as they're listed in the handbook, the SIP is first in line and the CAP is second in line. But it wasn't this semester. I think it was last semester. One of the course instructors that I worked with, for whatever reason, chose to make the CAP do first and the SIP do second, which created, as you know, as you could probably guess, I mean, a little bit of confusion among the candidates. I've always gone with the SIP first and the CAP second because I'm a linear thinker and I like step one, step two, step three, and I like to follow the line of progression. If you know or when you know who your course instructor is, before you do, I mean, if you do a lot of work in one and the other ones, if you go ahead and do some preliminary work in one and the other one comes due, well, you know, that work's not wasted. You can use it later. But as soon as you know who your course instructor is, you might want to ask them, who I don't know who they are. If I did, I would help you out. But ask them in the syllabus what's going to be due first, the SIP or the CAP. Now, they may very well say, well, of course the SIP is. It's always the SIP. And that's fine, but you can say, well, in another, you know, that I told you that in another course instructor that I worked with, it was reversed. So you don't want to put a lot of work in one, and I just don't want you to be surprised is what I'm getting at. So you may want to check with your course instructor once you find out who that person is. Now, with the stakeholder community involvement plan and the culture advocacy plan, you're going to kind of be working in some realms that you've already worked in. The stakeholder community involvement plan is just basically getting with your administrative team, and you're going to have to form another PLC. You can use the same people that you've used in the past. That's fine. The one thing that you want to be sure that you have is this is because it's a stakeholder community, you want to involve internal and external participants. And basically, you're looking with parental involvement, community school outreach and partnerships. You know, if you're a Title I school, it's no longer called parental involvement. It's now parent and family engagement plan. So the ESSA changed all that terminology, and every school system in the state's having to change their policy and change their verbiage to say parent and family engagement plan now because of ESSA. But how are you involving your parents? How are you involving your volunteers? How are you reaching out to community entities, faith-based organizations? Does a grocery store, have they adopted your school? Has some other business adopted your school? But basically what you're going to do is you're going to kind of analyze that process or that culture of communication, and you're going to identify some communication gaps, some data deficiencies, some opportunities that might have been lost for collaboration, and you're going to address these deficiencies, bring them to your school leadership and your school improvement team for consideration and implementation. So you're going to kind of what you've done, the process of doing a analysis, whether it be quantitative or qualitative, of your school. But now you're looking through the lens of what can we do better to reach out to our parents and our school community. And you're going to take a look at that. You're going to identify some gaps. You're going to make some recommendations. You're going to talk about those gaps, make some recommendations. Then you're going to also highlight the strengths of what you see. You may have a great parent and family engagement plan. Your school may do a fantastic job of engaging the community in different areas. You can highlight that. Then you're going to kind of make some objectives, make some short-term and long-term goals about it for the gaps that you did identify. And then what are your recommendations for improvement? What's your plan for improvement? And it's going to kind of be in the way of a marketing plan. So when you get to the marketing plan process, you're going to have to make a marketing plan to kind of market some type of improvement and community engagement, parent engagement. And then you're also going to have to identify your resources. What resources have you got on hand that can help you with this marketing plan? What resources do you need to help you with this marketing plan? And that's basically going to be the stakeholder community involvement plan. That's an overview with it. If you want to, we'll go ahead and take a brief look at task 1 in the rubric. We'll come back to the CAP here in a little bit. But in your task, you can use what you've always used in describing your setting, all that demographic information. You can pull back in to this. You need to have a statement of purpose. You may want to do some literature review on family and parent engagement. You can find a bunch of stuff like that if you do your keyword search out of ESSA with parent and family engagement. Use kind of some of that literature review to form your statement or purpose of this plan. You want to do like you did back in the APSL and in the APTL. You're going to get a group together as a PLC team. So you want to list them. You want to talk about their strengths. You want to talk about their roles, their strengths, their weaknesses. What role do they have in this process? Talk about what you found out. And you can really look at whatever you want to, anything that deals with engaging the community, engaging your external stakeholders, and how involved are your internal stakeholders, your teachers, your students, how involved are they in reaching out to your external stakeholders. Like say you have, I know Girls on the Run is a big club, and I know that a lot of runners in the community will actually support that and help come in and help show the girls about running and doing talks and then running with them. That's kind of a good example of this, how your internal stakeholders involved in this external community outreach program. And then you want to analyze the gaps, any communication gaps, make recommendations. You also want to talk about your organizational setting, how your volunteers ran, or is there a volunteer log, how are parents not organized, and just how you collected and analyzed how the structure of your school is formed to make it a welcoming environment to your stakeholders, your community and your stakeholders. Could even talk about it, I know a big part of ESSA is communicating to the community and to parents in a language that they can understand. That doesn't mean just Spanish. That means all different forms of communication. It could be as simple as what do you put on your marquee? What do you put on your bulletin board out at the school to communicate things to the parents? Do you do a phone outreach? Do you have, I think it's School Messenger or Connect Ed, Do you inform parents that way? Is the school structured before grade level newsletters goes out or department newsletters goes out? So on and so forth. So anything that your school does to pull that community in and to solicit opportunities for partnership, you want to highlight that. So that kind of gets you kicked off with the stakeholder community involvement plan. Any questions on the SIP? And we'll go over this in more detail when we meet that first time. This just kind of gets you started. Now, excuse me, it is the middle of summer, so you may just kind of want to do, get your tasks together, kind of. If you're really good friends with these people that you've worked with on your PLC team up to now, at this point in time, when they see you walk down the hallway, they may be running from you. I don't know. Or you may have some really good colleagues who will help you out. You may want to go ahead and contact them, kind of get them set up, and you could even arrange a meeting, right after things kind of settle in. You know better than anybody else how your work days are going to go at the beginning of the school. I know some of you have gone to a year-round calendar, hybrid calendar, maybe, to kind of get away from the calendar legislation. I know some of you may be going back in a couple of weeks. 1st of August, I know Surrey County, in northwestern part of the state, my sister-in-law works for them, and they're going to be back in school, I think, first week in August, because they've done that. So it may be closer for some of you than others. But you may want to go ahead and get that team assembled. Go ahead and think about the structure of your school, how it's organized, what are you guys doing, make some lists about community involvement that's going on, and begin to kind of formulate that evidence, how to kick off on it. Now, with the cultural advocacy analysis plan, and I can't believe that I remember all these acronyms, but cultural advocacy and action plan. You're going to be working with the teacher working condition survey again, and that's going to be an analysis of the school culture as it's related to the teacher working condition survey. Now, if you don't live in North Carolina and you don't have a teacher working condition survey, I think South Carolina has the equivalent of that. I can't remember what it's called. If you're in a charter school, anything that kind of evaluates the school, the leadership of the school, operations, facility, schedule, time, all of that. Anything that's done to do that, you can use that, as it says here in the description somewhere. So any other validated cultural assessment as baseline data can be used. So you look at the teacher working condition survey as it relates to culture. You go through that, analyze that data, identify some specific needs of the school community and the community at large to be addressed by an action plan. We can go ahead. I don't think there's really anything else. Like I said, it's all kind of revolving around the teacher working condition survey. Let's go ahead and go to task 1. Seems like there's one other point that I wanted to make with this. Okay, based on this, I'm sorry, actually this is this part right here. Based on what you find out on the teacher working condition survey, then you're kind of going to have to do how ready is the school for change? You might want to pull in some literature review here on school change process and things of that nature you could use in your task. But how ready is the school for change? And then you're going to make a recommendation for a foundation of change. Survey, you could do a survey to gather more data, that nature. Then you're going to kind of do a graphical display of your findings. All right, so in just looking at task 1 on the CAP, if for some reason you're in a course where the CAP comes first, If not, we'll go over the cap in more detail. That's why I'm hitting them both, because after that last semester, we talked about the SIP with that other cohort, and they were kind of all gassed up to go in that direction. And then, of course, we got thrown a curveball when the course instructor decided to do the cap first. So that's why I'm going to go over both of these, so you'll be aware of both of them and kind of get a little guidance on both of them until you find out from your course instructor if they're going to follow the progression as it is in the handbook, or they're going to exercise their academic freedom and change that up a little bit. Okay, so like I said, go ahead and get your hands on, grab your hands, pull that thing out of the drawer, out of your desk, or wherever you got it, off the internet, the Teacher Working Conditions Survey. You want to look at these areas: empowerment, leadership, facilities, resources, and times. So you want to analyze all that data, look for any gaps, look for any discrepancy, compare it, your school to the state. Once again, if it's not the Teacher Working Conditions Survey, if you're in a charter school, I've worked with those individuals before too, didn't have a Teacher Working Conditions Survey, didn't have anything. I worked with them so they could develop their own survey on their own questionnaire and send that out. And if that's the case, that's something you probably do want to be working on now. You can even go online, look at the Teacher Working Conditions Survey, kind of pattern, don't plagiarize by any means, but kind of pattern your survey along those type of lines to gauge that different type of climate data at your school. So once you analyze all that in those areas, you look at empowerment, leadership, facilities, resources, and time, then you're going to develop a needs assessment, just like the ABSL and the APTL. Do that needs assessment, pull out those gaps, pull out those short strengths, those weaknesses, and then make recommendations based on what you found out. Okay, and that's kind of, you do want to, I forgot to mention this, you do want to look in terms of diversity and equity of your school. How much attention is paid in terms of issues with diversity and equity. If you're a diverse school, then may not be an issue, but if not, then it might be something you want to pay attention to. So that's really an overview of the SIP and the CAP, and talks about task one for each. Any questions? While you're thinking about it, I have a question for anyone. Do you guys know who your course instructor is at this point in time?
I just looked and it said Sanders.
Okay, I've worked with Dr. Sanders before, and I don't think that, I hesitate to say this, but the best of my memory will serve me. I don't think there was, I can't remember if I worked with her in 604. Seems like it might have been in 603 or 605. But I would reach out to her and just tell her that you want them to do some preliminary work, kind of set things up, and didn't know whether you should gear your efforts towards the SIP or the CAP, which one's going to come first in terms of being due. And thank you for that information. Any other questions?
I think I figured it out too. Just
James, you are a genius.
Yeah. It's just I might have requested comments from you a few different times, so.
That's okay. I appreciate you letting me know, because I bet my emails probably got several of those notifications. But yeah, you did figure it out though, so that's the main thing. I don't care how many times you had to request comments, as long as you got it submitted. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, man, you're welcome. Good job. Thanks for letting me know. And for all you guys that kind of pitched in there and helped James and I, thank you for that again. All right, I'm still tracking who's turning in what, when, and where. Don't be pestered by that. If you haven't completed everything, I just want to make sure there's no surprises and you guys are in good shape to track out a strong finish. So I'm checking that, every day. And who's turned in what, how much more they got to go, just to make sure that they were in good shape to finish. I may send you some extra information next week. We've got a faculty meeting on Monday, and if there's anything new or anything that you need to know coming out of that, I'll probably just shoot you an email and let you know. But I don't foresee anything coming out of it. All right. Anything else for the good of the cause?
Hey, Dr. Bullis, I've got a couple questions, but I don't know if it's like a whole class question.
Okay, sure. If you just want to hang around, Brittany, yeah, we can talk and finish up here at the end. So unless there's anything else, now, as always, if you need to speak to me or Zoom with me, it doesn't have to be on these nights. So we can schedule an individual Zoom session or a small group session. I just want to remind you that here coming up towards the end of the semester, if that's a need, just let me know. I probably won't reach out to you. No, I don't think we have. No, we don't. We'll get towards the end, so this is probably the last scheduled Zoom session. But, like I said, if you need one, let me know. If you just need to talk on the phone, let me know. I don't foresee being pulled away to this week. I had administrative conference for 3 days. So hopefully, hope and pray, good Lord willing, I'll be in my office for the next several weeks and not get pulled out again. All right. So if not, if you don't have any questions, I'll check the chat box one more time. If not, then I hope you all have a great evening, and I hope you and your family stay safe and sound and healthy. God bless you all. If you guys want to go ahead and cut out, that's cool. I'm going to stop the recording, and then I'm going to try and help Brittany with a couple of her questions. You guys have a great evening. Thank you.